All right, welcome to Mazecast, episode 400,000. We didn't think we were going to make it this far, but we just kept plugging through. And then finally, we've got our first new person since about episode 4 or so, a fellow who goes by the name of Gaming Knight. Now, that is his Christian name. His parents did name him Gaming Knight, one name only. They figured it was unique enough. It didn't really require any other qualifiers. And he doesn't like to abbreviate it. You know, there's no GN, no hey gamey, hey Mr. Knight. It's just Gaming Night, all right? So everybody be cool about it. Hey, Gaming Night, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Thanks for inviting me over here.
Well, hey, thanks for showing up. And when we started this, I kind of had this dream that like people from the Maze community would just like keep filtering in, and we'd have some people here and some people there. But it turns out a lot more people are willing to post on message boards than are willing to come and do a hangout on air. So I'm glad to have someone else actually coming on the webcast here. How did you find out about Maze and get started with it?
Well, I bought this book here, Maze of Games by Mike Slinker, and on Amazon, this was one of the books that was recommended. So,
How long ago was that you got Maze?
about 2 months ago.
Okay, so you're fairly new to this. Have you looked into, like, have you read about the solution or anything like that?
No, I've been staying clear of that, trying to figure it out on my own.
All right, we're
Fantastic.
going to watch what we say.
Yeah.
We don't want to ruin anything for you.
No, definitely not.
We have unspoiled territory here. Although we might spoil some things about Room 41 just by talking about it, which we're going to do here in a minute.
Which is fine by me.
All right, Andrew here is going to be presenting the room for us, but I'm sure we're all going to have things to say at some point. But go ahead, Andrew. You can take it away with Room 41.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I pretty much have to lead off with the big recent revelation, which was Kontiki's framing of the room as being inspired by Chutes and Ladders, which I think we're all pretty enamored with. He's looking at elements like the checkered floor, and the ladder, and the slide, and putting all these together and interpreting the whole room as being sort of themed on this old board game. And so we've been having a lot of fun with that. We've been trying to flesh that out a lot, and considering various ramifications. Some of them are harder to deal with, and some of them are pretty cool. One of the big things is that we've been trying to find a way of getting 100 in this room, because the objective of Chutes and Ladders is to reach tile 100, and so there have been a couple of attempts. One of the attempts is to try to take the doll's eyes as representing zeros. This is one that has been confirmed. This has all been confirmed by White Raven, by the way, so far, what I've said. White Raven has confirmed the idea of taking the doll's two eyes and representing them as zeros, and then you combine those with 1, which is the ideal door, and you get 100. Now, I should interject, by the way, the ideal door is 1, and we're just going to have to spoil that for you, sorry, Gaming Night, because this is the last way to exit out of the loop, which is the whole unproductive track of rooms that don't get you to the center of the maze. This is your opportunity to get out of the loop and get back and start fresh from room 1. So we want to find clues that can lead us to door 1, and so one of those, as I've said, is the idea of taking the doll's eyes, putting them together, getting 2 zeros, and then you get 100 if you add door 1. Another option is taking the 2 concentric circles on the face of the large statue to the left. I don't feel great about either of those, Vince. I'm not sure that you love the doll's eye solution either, but it's what's been confirmed. But there are some more things you can do with Chutes and Ladders. Marianne had, I thought, a really cool point about how the bow in the doll's hair is reminiscent of the blue ribbon, which is a picture that classically appears on the tile 100. So that gives you some, that just ties into the room a little bit more. It ties into the theme of Chutes and Ladders a little bit more, and then.
Oh, the thing is, it really doesn't look anything like the blue ribbon that's on Square 100, you know?
No, it's not. It's definitely not specifically meant to. I don't think that you're meant to. I don't think that Menson was counting on people making that connection, but it seems as though it might have. You can see that as possibly having informed his decision to draw her with that instead of with a hat or what have you. So that's been White Raven has confirmed that. And the only other thing that's been confirmed about Chutes and Ladders is the you can call that a little bit weak. I find this even a little bit weaker. Is the idea that the doll's dress is reminiscent of drawings of girls in dresses. There are young boys and girls that adorn various editions of the game. They are drawn right onto the board, and so I think this was another suggestion of Marianne's, that the doll's dress is reminiscent of those characters. I find that weaker still, but that's also been confirmed. So some of this you can go in a lot of directions with it, and I'm not sure that I agree with all of them, but I think we're all pretty satisfied that the Chutes and Ladders theme is definitely there. Just with the checkered floor and the slide and the ladder, it's really hard to unsee it once you see it. And so I wonder if, Vince, you want to add anything more, or Gaming Night? Do you have any comments?
Yeah, to me, it kind of reminded me of the Alice in Wonderland through the Looking Glass a little bit, kind of. And then I kind of analyzed the room, like, looks like the frog and the fly looks like representing that's the shoot the ladder bad is trap, leads to a trap, I guess.
Yes. Hey, stop you right there for a second. Did you come up with that on your own, or did you read that somewhere?
I did not read that anywhere.
See, that's interesting, because that is the standard, or that's like the accepted solution of what that frog and fly mean.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the only other thing that's been confirmed on the Abyss. I mean, to the extent that you accept that. But yes, that's a very old solution. That comes from one R. Serena Wakefield, and she was one of the people who was working on John Bailey's site, which was an older Maze community site that's sort of the previous generation, and yeah, that has definitely become accepted canon. Is that
I think independent of how strongly you can explain why it should mean that, if a bunch of people see it and have like the same feeling about what it means, I think that's a good indication of what it was meant to imply, you know? So I sometimes kind of wonder, like, I don't know whether that's really what that's about. But when multiple people see that and say, yeah, that going down the slide is kind of like being swallowed up by that frog, and I think that sort of legitimizes it. So sorry, that's why I cut you off to ask that question.
No problem. The other thing, I was looking at the statue by the number 1. Looks like she's like possibly choking on some poisonous mushrooms or something. So kind of go back to room 1 because this is bad. That's kind of what I was looking at when you earlier.
Interesting. We've had a lot of interpretations.
International sign for choking.
Yeah, I think it really makes more sense to have you give your impressions, and I can correlate that with stuff that's already been discussed, rather than me just plowing through my list of notes.
Yeah, no problem.
So this is great. And if you want to, we can come back to the Chutes and Ladders stuff, Vince, if you want to talk any more about that. But I think it would be great to talk about the statue right now. People have tried to name it different ways. People have called it an idol and thought that it might correlate with the eyes of the doll, which she may be pointing to. So we've tried to do stuff with that. Some people have noticed that it resembles a sarcophagus. I think Gentile and Alex have both commented that it, or maybe Gentile and Marianne have both. Gentile and Alex have both noticed the resemblance to a sarcophagus. And then Vince, you had your thing about thinking that it might appear to be the position of somebody who's about to take a trust fall.
Don't you dare attribute. I said that in jest.
But Alex really likes it, so I had to mention it. Alex is really he's going for that one, and because you get trust in the text, and then I think Alex elaborated with the fact that if it were doing a trust fall, it would be about to fall backward into room 1, which is where you're supposedly intended to go. So
yeah, I mean, when I facetiously mentioned that, I was tying it to the how can we trust that thing in the text, or whatever the exact line is. But that's what I was connecting that to, and I meant it as a joke. Yeah, how can we trust that?
Well, Vincent, your problem is that when I take the notes for these episodes, I write down everything I like, even if it was intended as a joke. So
I know. I'm not complaining about you mentioning it. I'm just trying to distance myself from it.
Well, if Alex were here, he'd probably take up the banner because he really thinks that's interesting. I don't know. I always thought idol was a good, simple word that we might be supposed to get out of it, and I liked the idol connection. But then White Raven says that he doesn't think that we're supposed to call it an idol. He doesn't like that.
That seems strange to me. I mean, the basin at the floor with food in it is to me very suggestive of an idol. I mean, I've seen a lot of probably mostly doing research about this room, but I've seen lots of similar idols with basins at the bottom for offerings and things. It doesn't seem too controversial to me to call that an idol, but I don't know.
Now, Gaming Night, you had an idea that I've never heard before, which is that the idol might be, or the statue, I'll call it a statue because that's sort of a neutral term. The statue might be choking on one of the mushrooms. I love that. But you interpret that as a pointer away from door one. Which is, I mean, fair. Like, you should share whatever your impressions are. Because sometimes we do feel like we get pointers away from what should be the correct door, and you have to kind of square that somehow. But you have any other thoughts about the statue?
Which the statue, the sarcophagus, as you guys are calling it.
Sarcophagus, idol, statue, whatever you'd like to call it.
Other than that, because that was the only one that they went back to one, so I'm like, well, I know if this was a trap room, and then apparently it is. So
Well, it's not a trap exactly. I mean, it's the wrong way, but at least you can get out. When we refer to rooms as being in the trap, we usually mean the circle of rooms that you can't get out of.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So actually, 41 is a room. If you go off the correct path, but you haven't gone in a trap yet, 41 is a room that you have to go through to get back to 1 to start all over. Which, to bring it back to Chutes and Ladders, is the reason I think that this Chutes and Ladders theme is going on in 41 on sort of a meta level is because of and this is not mine. This came from Kon-Tiki. I think he's absolutely right. It's because the origin of the phrase "back to square one," it comes from Chutes and Ladders.
Oh, no way.
Allegedly, there's some different folk etymologies associated with it, but the most commonly accepted one, at least in America, seems to be that it comes from the board game Chutes and Ladders. And really, that describes exactly what's going on in room 41. If you stepped off the path, then you have to start over and go back to room 1 to make another attempt at going at the center. And to me, that makes the most sense. You come to room 41, it's got the Chutes and Ladders theme, and 1 is the correct door. I don't mean to suggest that by looking at this room and figuring out it has a Chutes and Ladders theme that tells you, we have to go back to square one. That's 1. But like I say, on a meta level, in terms of why there's that theme in this room, I think it's because that's sort of the function that the loop in general serves, is that it sends you back to room 1 to start over.
Yeah, I like that. As a reason why he would have chosen it for this one.
Yeah. I don't know. What's next on your bullet point list?
Well, I can go down the bullet point, or I can just Gaming Night. As you're looking at it, are you getting any? Is there anything else that comes to your mind that you want to?
Well, like I said, the girl with the bow, I thought it was stay away from the room because of the noise from the room, from the trumpets.
Oh, yep, that's cool.
Pointing to her ears.
Yeah. Gentile went so far as to think that she was plugging up her ears, which I think is a little much. But yeah, there is definitely precedent for that idea. So it's cool that you're also finding that the twisted horns. There's some sort of a sense that there's some kind of a cacophony. It doesn't look like a very harmonious combination of instruments, and so yeah, it sort of makes sense to suggest that you should be going away from 10 to preserve your ears.
We should say, according to White Raven, Manson has confirmed, either in a conversation or through email, I don't remember, that the doll is meant to be pointing at its hair, which would be made out of yarn, I guess, because it's a doll, as a red herring relating back to the word yarn in room 1.
I think I should stop you there. I was looking over this, and yes, from White Raven, Manson confirmed that the hair is yarn, but I didn't see Manson confirming that the doll is pointing to the hair.
Okay, all right, you're right. I should.
Other interpretations. Yeah,
It was during his discussion of red herrings that Manson mentioned the yarn, right?
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there's presumably something else going on with the doll, although maybe not. But at least the reason why I think it's a doll instead of a girl or whatever is because the hair is supposed to be yarn and it's supposed to be a false clue telling you to, well, maybe you should have gone to yarn back in room 1.
Yeah, that's one of. I mean, it seems to me that there are other, like, you wouldn't have to know that to feel that it was a doll, because the wide staring eyes, the button-looking nose, and the stumpy feet also all suggest something that's not an organic life form. So I don't think you need to know that it's yarn to get the sense that it's a doll. But I agree with you. I don't think there's
the other way around. It's not that you know it's yarn until you conclude it's a doll. You can tell it's a doll, so I guess that makes you conclude its hair is yarn. Although I think that's probably a conclusion to be drawn by another generation, because I don't think most of the dolls we had, well, not that we all had dolls. The dolls that were around when we were kids, I don't think had yarn for hair, generally speaking.
No, other than Raggedy Ann.
My wife says they did, but she's like 20 years older than I am.
Oh, shush.
Well, you had an interesting idea. Do you want to describe your idea about the 3 wrong doors from room 1 all sort of pointing at other doors from room 1?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head exactly how it goes, but the idea was you go in the wrong room and it has an indicator of one of the words that were on one of the other doors. So like you go through here, room 41, and there's the indicator of yarn, which sort of makes you think you went the wrong way. If you go through the door to 21, then there's like a bird with its back turned and the long flowery feathery tail there, suggesting tail, like, oh, I should have gone through tail. If you go through 20, I think I suggested that the tortoise is suggestive of
the fable
because of the tortoise in here. That's a bit of a stretch, though, really.
No, I kind of like that one. I feel less great about the tail, getting the tail off of the bird. But I like getting the fable from tortoise, and I like getting yarn from here.
Which, yeah, it seems like there's something to that.
It's kind of cool. I like it. Well, let me check back in with Gaming Night. Do you have anything else you've noticed so far, Gaming Night?
On page 41?
Yeah.
That's pretty much the only ones I've seen. Like I said, the ladder goes up, but from the text it's saying we shouldn't trust that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's ambiguous whether it's referring to the ladder or. And this is a really interesting point. It's ambiguous what exactly it's referring to, and Gentile gave, I thought, one of his simplest and best ideas in this room when he pointed out that each of the 3 doors besides door 1 is marked by some object that's extending out of the picture. We have the ladder, which goes up who knows where for 35. We have a couple of the horns or bells or whichever those instruments are further in. You have them leading out into the door frame of 10. And you have, of course, the slide going down into 38. So in each of those cases, you can say, who knows where it ends up? Who knows where this is going to take you? Whereas with door 1, you know where that ends up. You've necessarily been there already. And so that could be meant to give you the sense that you should be returning to where you know instead of taking one of these 3 possibly unknown object paths.
That's interesting. I actually hadn't read Gentiles. I hadn't read Dave's thing about stuff in the doorway or extending off the page before. That is interesting.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's pretty cool.
And I think the other part, I always was on board with the other part, with the idea that, they don't know where the thing is going to end up. How can we trust that thing? And then at the end, it says that they were sure of themselves in choosing their exit. Well, the only place where we know that they know what's on the other side of the door is if they're going back to room 1 where they just came from.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought that was a good interpretation of the text. Kind of similar to like room 14, where it says they surprised him by turning around.
Yeah.
Suggest they went back the way they came.
Yeah, which I like a lot. That's what
That's similar going on here.
So let's see what else I had noted down. So we're covering a lot of that stuff. Other than the chutes and ladders stuff, which is pretty well agreed upon, there's also a couple of people, including Gentile and Marianne, have noticed that you can almost get sort of a tic-tac-toe going on here as well, because you have this statue which has the O's and it's got the X, so you have the two tic-tac-toe symbols, and then you have that one mushroom which people have been trying to do all kinds of things with this mushroom that's pointing toward one of his toes.
Mm-hmm.
The single one that's outside of the trough and instead leaning on one of his toes. And you can combine that with the same checkered board pattern from chutes and ladders to get some kind of a sense that maybe tic-tac-toe was being included here, but nobody has any idea what to do with it. I just thought I should mention it.
Yeah, I do like identifying that thing as the tic-tac-totem, though.
Yeah.
That is a good phrase. Yeah, I mean, it's even got the toes sticking out. It's got X's and O's and toes. It certainly does cry out for a tic-tac-toe interpretation, but yeah, what do you do with it?
Yeah. And if you go down that route, you better be pretty rock solid on it, because calling the arms an X can cause all kinds of problems if you're not going to draw that into a really tight solution. The biggest problem with calling the arms an X is that going by my biggest love, which is Roman numerals, that could send you to door 10 if you just notice that on your own. So that would be risky to have that suggest X if that weren't supposed to be part of a pretty solid solution.
Oh, not to mention all the eyes in the room. Once you get an eye involved, you know that you're heading towards room 10. Because then all of a sudden you're combining...
Well, of course. Well, of course. Yes, and that doll was probably put together with a needle, so that's gonna.
Oh.
That's the clincher.
There's something going on in room 10. That's got to be the right answer somehow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had the flying frog stuff. Another bit of concerning the fly and the frog, which you noticed, and which is very solid on Gaming Night. Another thing that Ben pointed out, who's been here a few times. He noticed that it was one of the first comments on this entire room. He noticed that the fly, if you look very carefully at the fly, you'll notice that part of the wing actually seems to be protruding over the frame of the picture. Now maybe it's just like drawn or painted over the frame, or maybe it's some kind of 3D attachment to the frame or something. But the other possibility is that maybe the fly isn't actually part of the picture, and it's actually a fly that has landed there. And so it's hard to know what to do with that. I think, Vince, you had the idea that maybe it means that the frog is just looking up at the number 38 instead, but it's out there. I don't really know what to do with it. Personally, I like the simple solution that the fly is just in the picture.
Whoa, the fly's in the picture. Come on, man. You can't think the fly's in the picture. That's not an accident.
You know what? I'm going to take a stand. I know it's controversial, but I'm going with it.
Yeah, that is controversial. That's the most controversial. I can't believe that. I am really taken aback.
Go ahead and post a 5,000-word takedown of my idea on the Abyss. I'm sure it'll get like 20 likes.
I'm gonna Marianne your ass. Oh, no, that really surprises me, because to me it just seems so clear that the wing extends over the frame there, and yeah, but
it does. I mean, it's so noticeable that it does. But how strong do you feel about taking that all the way to suggest that the fly isn't actually there? Because there are ways that it could be part of the picture without,
Well, I guess about 100%. I mean, close to it. I mean, I guess unless you interpret it as like something magical happening, like the fly coming to life out of the painting or something. But either way, it's still like not quite in the painting. To me, it's just unimaginable that that's. I just have no doubt that that's what that means is that fly is not part of the painting. That it's a fly on the painting.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I still think that it could just be some kind of attachment, like adding a three-dimensional component to the image or something. Because I don't know, it looks weird. It looks very cartoony for a real animal in the maze.
That's true. There is something to that.
Although maybe it's on. I mean, I'm being presumptuous by calling it a fly. It isn't necessarily. We just think of flies as being frog food. Could be a cicada or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at that size, I guess who the hell knows what it would be. It's
it's just still one of the mysteries of the room is why it is so clearly going over the frame.
Yeah.
Let me see what else I've got. This is what I was talking about. When you suggest an idea, or anybody suggests an idea that I like, I'm going to write it down even if they disavow it later. You struggled a lot with the idea that the checkered floor might represent some kind of a racing, like, finish line / starting line signifier, which I don't know if you want to talk any more about that now or if you want to just completely wash your hands of it.
Boy, that was some time ago. Well, I think it started because, I can't remember why I came up with that idea originally.
Let me tell you why. I think it started because Gentile suggested that for your benefit gaming night, room 20 is the one is the way that you actually exit back to room 1 if you were successfully on the path, taking the shortest way in and out. So Gentile suggested that in room 20, that plaid chair might be supposed to represent the checkered flag that says the race is over. And I think, Vince, you were unsatisfied with that and felt that this actual checkered floor was a stronger...
Yeah, I had a lot of problems with the idea that was finding a checkered flag in 20. And I don't know whether I said... I can't remember whether I said that 41, like, no, this is definitely the checkered floor here, that this represents the beginning / end of a race course, or if I was just saying this is a lot more sensible place to suggest that's happening. I don't know.
Yeah, you didn't say it was definitely. You just felt that this was a much more plausible way to work that idea in than this plaid but not checkered, all just pretty much one color chair.
Yeah, but there is. I mean, the loop is laid out. I guess any set of rooms that's connects to each other is it can be called circular, but the loop does have a pretty broad circular shape to it, and I've talked about that before in the video I did about the maps. But I mean, there's a layout to the loop that essentially there's a circular track to it, and if you're going back to 1, you need to get back on that track from whatever room you're on as quickly as possible, and then just follow it back around. So I mean, there's some reason to think of it as a circle, and this is the first entrance to the loop, and this is where you would exit the loop to get back into 1. So it's not unthinkable that this could be sort of a finish / starting line on a race course, but I think with the realization that this is a chutes and ladders room, I would pretty much abandon that interpretation and say, nah, the reason why this has a checkered floor is because of the checkered game board on chutes and ladders. And I don't think there's any other interpretation necessary.
Though on that note, has anybody, do you know if anybody, when you were talking about the broadly circular shape of the loop, do you know if anybody has made an effort to argue for the totem, the statue concentric circles as being like a map of the loop in the same way that we have a map of the key?
Not to my knowledge.
Possible, but I mean it's so weak. It's just a circle within another circle. But I mean, it just seemed like the kind of room where you might expect that to happen.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The other thing I noticed while I was looking at the 2 concentric circles is it seems unbelievable to me that nobody has pointed this out, but And I was sure that somebody had in my memory, but then I looked over the abyss and I didn't see it. Surely people have discussed the resemblance to a bullseye, with the idea being that you're going to go to room 1 because you hit the bullseye.
Wait, I don't want to follow what you're saying there. You're going to go, oh, because room 1, you're saying, yeah, because it's associated with 1, and it's a bullseye, and bullseyes are good, then it's like...
Yeah, that's
Okay.
so obvious, but surely somebody has mentioned that before. Surely that's not my idea.
It's been mentioned before that it looks like a bullseye, but I've never heard that straightforward, just bullseyes are good. It's a bullseye,
Okay.
it's associated with 1, so 1's good.
I can put that up on the list, see if we get those last 2 puzzle points.
Yeah. It's always just been sort of like, hey, here's another eye.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with that.
Oh, eyes are magical. They can always get you to the right door.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have just a few more things. I think I'll just go ahead and go through, if you don't mind Gaming Night. I think I'm just going to go through the last few notes that I had and then check back in with you and see.
Sure thing.
Okay, so let me just blitz through the last few of these. Oh, yeah, so, is this where you want to talk about the Practical Alchemist, Vince? Here's something that you pointed out in the text on the Abyss that I thought was good. In the phrase, that wasn't the point, it has that Practical Alchemist-like quality of being words in the text that sort of just cue you to something that's going on in the image, and I think what you're supposed to get is you're supposed to be paying attention to the way that the doll is pointing at her face or eyes or hair. You want to talk about that more? Is that why you brought the book?
Yeah, give me a second. Let me take off the screen share here. Okay. So the idea, and this is something that Andrew mentioned.
Yeah.
God, it could have been 10 months ago now. I don't remember. It was a couple shows ago. He made reference to the way that in Practical Alchemist in particular, which is another puzzle book by Manson, which is really great. We're not going to go into it too much, but I think it's a really good puzzle book.
Yeah, I love it.
It doesn't get nearly as much attention as Maze. But the text in this one is just full of references to things in the pictures that are not the solution. Like it's about 80% irrelevant references to things going on in the text. And I think that there's some of that going on in Maze. We were, or I, or whoever is guilty as anyone of taking every line and trying to figure out what does this line mean, what does it refer to, and I think it's correct to do that in that the lines do refer to something generally, but they don't always refer to the correct answer. You don't always need to tap dance to get every line to point you towards the correct answer. Sometimes there's just stuff in the text that mentions something going on in the room to get you thinking along those lines. And so I wanted to show you this image here, which is, you can see it's step, I don't know, I'm not holding this very well. This is step 1 in the Practical Alchemist, kind of akin to room 1, I guess, sort of. And the idea is you're working certain kinds of transformations on words to make other words, and over the course of the book you want to change the word cat into the word gold. I'm not going to go into all the rules here with particular, but I will say that the transformation that you're supposed to do here, spoiler alert, is that the word cat gets transformed into the word cart by adding an R to it. Okay. Now, but everything in the text, or almost everything in the text, is referring to other things that are going on in the room.
And other things that are legitimate, other transformations of cat, because practically everything else in that picture is another legitimate next step from cat. So
right, like in the text they have, they say that the cat has been transformed into several shapes and guises and is hid under many false faces. And then you can see the cot here, which is a transformation of cat by replacing the A with an O, and it's underneath a mask, which is a false face.
That's great.
So it seems like you read that, oh, he's saying that it's the cot because it's under. No, it just says that. Yep. Does it refer to the cot? Sure does. Is that the right answer? No.
Just read on, read on.
Yeah. Um, Here we must choose what props we may take up or lay down. So we've got, for instance, many props that are up, things he's holding up. We've got things that are lying down. Um,
I think the work I have a copy as well.
okay.
The work we will perform when it's referring to the work that we will perform, I think that could be a reference to the cart.
Mhm.
It's an act of work. And let's see, there's a sense of balance, which refers to the fact that the picture displays a balancing act, because act would be yet another legitimate word from cat.
That's true.
Yeah, so
They say the work.
yeah, this servant's report is a wheeled conveyance. Yeah, that's the cart.
Yeah, when you get to the end.
Yeah, so
The work we perform will overtop. Oh, I think that's probably a reference to the top hat.
oh yeah, no, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
And the will to strike out all erroneous ideas.
Oh, that's great. Oh, god damn it, it's so good.
But yeah, it's the text, and it's page after page. It's just tons of references to things in the text, and they do you no goddamn good because it references everything in the room. Except I think that, I think the one thing it does is I think the right thing is always referenced in some way on the page.
Oh,
So at least it does limit your options somewhat, that you're looking for something that you can tie into the text somehow. So it's helpful in that sense, but it's largely misleading. It's more like when you check your work afterwards, you can say, "Oh, good, there's a reference to it there."
sure.
So I think what you're getting at here, in room 41, to finally bring it back around to the original point, is there's that line in the text about that not being the point, and there's all this stuff pointing in the room. There's the doll pointing at her face, obviously, but we've also got the slide has these upright poles that extend above the slide that are kind of pointing up at 38. We've got the horns that are pointing up sort of towards the 10. We've got the arrow on 35 pointing up there. So there's different pointing stuff going on in the room. But I don't know that really means anything. Probably not. I think it's just that there's a doll pointing in the picture, so he used the word point in the text. I think that's probably what's going on.
So let me just mention a few more things. Kontiki, in addition to his fantastic Chutes and Ladders interpretation, he threw out another few things that I thought, just little quickie things that I thought might be worth mentioning, such as, let's see, he interprets that little mushroom sitting on the toe as being the first toe, and therefore that's a clue to go to room 1, although I don't really like that because I don't know why you would necessarily think of that as being the first toe, other than the fact that it's closest to us. But he also had something that was...
It could be the 10th toe, right?
I'm sorry, what?
But yeah, it could be the 10th toe, right?
It could just as well be the 10th toe, yeah. He had something else that was kind of cool, was that you can form the letter, you can see the letter A inside the formation of the poles that makes up the ladder and the slide. You can get the letter A out of some of those nearest poles, and since A is the first letter of the alphabet, that could be another clue for door 1, which is interesting.
That's pretty rough, though.
Yeah, it's rough, but yeah, I like that kind of thing when you can find it. Although it's fairly weak most of the time. Let's see, we had White Raven's comments about yarn. Yeah, so I got all that stuff. White Raven believes that there are at least 2 more readings of the doll that we haven't yet discovered, and he feels that both of those are pretty solid. So it's possibly out there. We might hit on something else. And then the only other stuff I had just a couple of little tiny observations of my own when I was looking at this, and one of them is that it's interesting when you look at the last words of the text. They say, and they went right on to, which if we thought that the correct door was 38, we would have been all over this as thinking that what it means is that they went right onto the slide. So that seems that seems like something that's worth mentioning is what seems like a really strong clue for the wrong room altogether. I don't know if it's just a red herring or maybe it was accidental, but we've tried to do some stuff with left and right in the different rooms, and so that could have been deliberate.
I think it's deliberately misleading. I don't think those directional clues mean anything, and especially in this context, there's just no reason to put the word "right" in there. You know, he could have just said they went on to, they went to. He really shoehorns that "right" in there for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
And I don't think that stuff's ever reliable. It's just kind of when it does fit, then it's like, it said left, and then you go left.
Yeah. It's sort of haphazard. The other thing I found was super weak, but it seemed like the kind of thing that maybe White Raven would like, which is that if you look past door 10 into the door frame, into the frame of the next door in, from what we see of it, the line of the door frame makes sort of the number 1, so you could turn that into a reference to door 1. It's the shabbiest conceivable clue, but it's kind of like up White Raven's alley. I don't know.
Yeah, well, then you got that big horn mouth right beside it. That's a 0, though, too.
Oh, no, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem when you don't have a unified room solution. You can always find stuff pointing the way you want. I mean, like you said, if 38 were the right door, we'd have stuff to suggest that. If 10 were the right door, yeah, we've got the X on the idol. We've got, I don't know, probably something else. Who the hell knows?
And if 35 were the right door, that's something else that I failed to mention about that wasn't the point. We also have that arrow pointing upwards, so is that...
Well, plus, if 35 were right, then we've just got, hey, this is a chutes and ladders room. That's the ladder. Taking the ladder's good. That seems to be the most obvious deduction you'd make when you discover a chutes and ladders theme is, hey, let's go up the ladder.
Yeah.
In fact, the ladder is worse than 10.
Yeah, that's bad.
But see, that's like a lot of things on the Abyss. We're told here's the solution, but you haven't quite figured it out yet. There is a good explanation, and then we don't find the explanation. So right now, the idea of taking those doll's eyes and combining them with the 1 to make 100 to indicate 100 square seems pretty far-fetched. It seems, just kind of jerry-rigged together to get you where you want to go. And maybe there is something out there, but at the moment, that doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to treat this as a literal or semi-literal game of chutes and ladders, just because the ladder clearly takes you to a much worse place. It seems to me that the back to square one idea makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But we'll see. We don't know what the explanation is for combining that stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything that I think I had jotted down. So how's it going over there, Gaming Night?
It's going pretty good.
I feel bad. I feel like we sort of excluded you through a lot of that, although I'm really glad we had you here to go over what you thought of the room in the beginning there. Let me...
Yeah, do you have any more thoughts? Have you observed anything else while we were blathering?
Pretty much, guys, covered pretty much all the stuff that I observed in the room here. So
we kind of went over pretty much everything in the text in the course of going over the room, too.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the special piece of furniture. There's one thing about the text that I haven't mentioned, which is not related to solving the room, but as far as the whole special piece of furniture I thought might appeal to my guests, the knee-jerk interpretation of this is that it's probably the slide, and people have used that as, there's somebody, I don't remember who it is, but somebody's bouncing around the idea that the visitors are actually children. He refers to them at one point as children, but it's easy to just take that as, a poetic, slightly condescending way of referring to them. But it sparked a theory that the visitors are actually kids, and I think that slide, I thought it might appeal to my guests. Somebody is out there using this as evidence for that theory. I don't know that I subscribe to it myself, but I don't have any real strong feelings about who the visitors are at all, really.
I don't either. It is weird how they're never explicitly stated by the text to be children. He addresses them as children in 26, but it says he does so in his most patronizing voice. In a couple other places, he says that they're like children, or like in 14, he says they like to think of themselves as adults.
Or
But it never flat out calls them children. See, I think that line is really meant to be ambiguous, though. I think it sort of fails at being ambiguous because everyone interprets it as being about the slide. But I think it is meant to refer to either the chute or the ladder, I guess.
or even the statue could be considered a piece of furniture.
Yeah, I mean, as easily as the others. I don't think any of that stuff is stuff you would ordinarily describe as being a piece of furniture.
Sure.
But one's as good as the other in that regard.
Yeah.
How can we trust that thing? One remarked. Who knows where it ends up? We talked about that. I knew naturally that
Wait. I got it. Remarked. Because if it's a bullseye and you hit it, then you hit the mark. There we go. Okay, done. Move on.
Yeah, remarked, marked again. See, you've already been to the bullseye once.
Oh, this is gold.
Oh, aren't you glad you could have been here for this gaming night?
Oh yeah, definitely.
We solved the maze. Another room checked off. Oh, I knew naturally, but that wasn't the point. They were pretty sure of themselves and went right on to. Yeah, I think we've talked about all the text in here pretty much. Not a lot of text in this room.
Yeah. It's I noticed that it's one of the absolute meanest of rooms in terms of the amount of text.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention in here, which is kind of, or I guess, totally going off the subject, but Gaming Night did a video that I just watched today where he was going through the maze for the first time. It's essentially like one of our visitors in the maze video, except he did it by himself. He just, opened up the book and went through it, which I thought was pretty interesting because that's exactly the kind of thing we wanted to do, and he did it. How long ago was that video made?
Hold on, let me go on my YouTube channel. I'll find out.
I think it was posted like late January.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that you made it and posted it the same day?
Yeah.
All right. I thought it was pretty interesting. I kind of like as you're going through it, every room you go to, you're like, oh, this is probably a trap. I'm gonna go through. Oh, it's probably a trap. Oh, this is interesting. We should do. Before we tell you too much, we should do another one of those videos, or you should do another one of those videos. Go through it some more.
Yeah.
Before we corrupt you with all our stupid ideas.
Yeah, I could do that. What room are we covering next?
Well, I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, we haven't decided already.
We don't plan that far ahead.
Alrighty.
Let me see. It's always fun for our audience to sit there and wait while I pull up a list of information or something. But
yeah, that's super good. I'm sorry that I missed I missed room 25. I love room 25.
Yeah, we kind of just picked up and did that real quick.
Seems like you just knocked that one off because there's not a whole lot to say about it.
Yeah. Here, I posted a list of the rooms we have left in the text chat associated with this hangout. Again, thrilling watching for the people at home.
Oh, riveting. Oh, okay. Let's not do room 34 because. Oh well, people have been talking about. Haven't people been talking about room 23 a bit? The 10 Commandments room. Yeah, everything right, nothing. Yeah. That's been generating a little discussion lately. Maybe we should go for that one.
All right. Does that sound good to you, Gaming Night? You probably have no preference at this point.
23 is fine for next time if I can make it. I'll see what days are good work for me, and I'll get with you guys.
All right, I think we'll work around your schedule because I think it was great having you on the show, even though we kind of still uh, ate up the majority of the show talking to each other about stuff we already knew. I think it's exactly what we want to have some new people on here with new ideas, and I think it was just great having you here. Well, unless anyone has any final thoughts or observations, I think that's going to be it for tonight.
No, I feel pretty sure of myself.
All right. All right.
Alright.
Good night, everybody.
It was fun. Definitely fun. I have to join you guys again soon.
All right. As will our viewers, I'm sure.